Welcome to the 615 Locker Room Podcast. I'm your host, Wormy, with my co host, Uncle Matt, aka Matt, and we're here to talk about Nashville, Tennessee sports. Um, we have more to talk about in terms of actual substance because there has been multiple sports happening that, is in our realm. Of course, you got the Nashville Sounds playing. I think they're playing multiple times a week, but that's besides the point. We had Tennessee Titans pregame that we're gonna get into later. But first things first, I want to talk about a game that didn't get televised. I didn't get to watch it, but I know that you made a vlog on it, Matt. Was the Aston Villa game that Nashville played? It was just a team friendly, it wasn't for anything, but we ended up getting the draw, which was, I looked at the Aston Villa starting, and it was it seemed to be their first team. Uh, so, what was your thoughts being there, Matt?
Nashville see for the first time, going up against a European team, a game like that coming in Geodis Park for the first time. So all around, really cool experience. 2-2 draw, finished on the scoreline. And yeah, it did seem like Aston Villa played, a pretty strong lineup, but preseason for them, not sure where that fell in their preseason schedule, how many games they'd played up to that point. So,
Mm-hmm.
how ramped up they were, you never know, and how much they're not really motivated to go out and get a win. They're just trying to like get their fitness levels up. They're trying to just kind of work through probably some technical, tactical things there. Not really like the highest level thing, but I mean, still, like talent margin difference. To go out and kind of show well and perform well against a team like that's always a good thing. Always something that kind of builds your confidence up. I'm sure hopefully, it's something Nashville SC players can kind of take, especially because we played so many of our backups and reserves and kind of fringe players. That's the kind of confidence boost that can kind of help those players because, as we get into the nitty gritty part of the MLS season, we're going to be needing a little bit. So, getting those guys a little bit of boost of confidence, getting them some energy, getting them some minutes. I think it's only a good thing for Nashville SC going down the stretch there. But it's a fun experience. It's cool to see because didn't feel like Aston Villa was just kind of like going through the motions. But obviously it's hard to judge where they're at in that point in their preseason. But overall, it was a fun experience. It was good to see like them come out and play on our field. I got to imagine it was kind of an interesting experience for them too, just because
Mm-hmm.
how many players on Aston Villa even like know where Nashville is on a map if you ask them before they came to that. So
Yeah.
get a team like that to come here play like here, and who knows, somewhere down the road, start to get teams to come over here and play those type of games. Dude comes over here with an Aston Villa, comes over here with like a middle of the road German team, middle of the road Italian team, and goes, went down to Broadway while we were in Nashville. That was pretty cool. Ate some hot chicken. Maybe I'll go play there, or like sign there. Maybe that's the thing that can kind of get us into the mix where we can start bringing over even more of these European players, like the Sam Surges of the world who kind of came here on a whim. If they've come over here and seen the city, seen what we have to offer, maybe that's a selling point to bring some of those players over somewhere down the line. So all around cool experience.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a weird thing to be plopped in the middle of our season right there like that. But overall, it was cool. I had a good time. I was glad to see it. Hope to see more stuff like that come to Geodis Park in the future.
Yeah, I was actually so. My girlfriend lives in Nashville, and I live in Knoxville, as most of the listeners know. And my girlfriend had surgery a few days before the Aston Villa game, so we were kind of. I went down there to help, and we were kind of in recovery mode. And I opted out of the tickets already. It's like that's just a big thing. But we're like, let's go walk around. Let's go see. So we walked the grounds of Geodis during the Aston Villa game, and like we could see through the players' tunnel, kind of onto the pitch, and the one like opening near the loading. And like I'm not an Aston Villa fan, and a lot of listeners know I'm not really a huge like watcher of Premier League, but it was super cool seeing Aston Villa uniforms on our pitch, and that's something that I think is good for the MLS. Even though it wasn't televised, those need. I think it'd be better for the MLS if those are televised, but also there's two sides of it now that I'm saying it. Uh, there's the one side of most Premier League first teams are going to come and probably whoop MLS. So that's not a great view. But then you have a match like this one where we got the draw. So there's two sides of it. my thoughts were kind of scattered there, but it's super cool to see. We heard the Aston Villa supporters chanting, and that was super cool. Um, it's just it was a super cool environment. Getting the 2-2 with one of our young guys scoring, Matthew Corcoran, that was super cool. I mean that's promising. Um, so yeah, I didn't get to watch the match, but if you guys want more insight to it, go check out Matt's vlog that he made. Him and nephew P went and watched, and it seemed like they had a good time. So another Nashville SC talk. St. Louis 3-1. Um, man, I mean I don't think anyone was really expecting that from I forget what the stat is. Did you see it? This is like the first, second, third time that we've lost to the lower tier. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. We've mostly been taking care of business against the teams that are kind of lower in the table than us this season. So this was kind of the little bit of a blip on the radar from that. And that I think we even talked here on the podcast in the past. That's one of the things. It's been one of the biggest improvements for Nashville SC this season is they haven't really, played down to teams, so to speak. They've kind of taken care of their business against those kind of lower
Mm-hmm.
tier teams. But this one was just not their day. Yeah, this was definitely one where
Mm-hmm.
things kind of went off the rails pretty quickly. And this one, it kind of reminded me a little bit of, weird to keep this stuff like this happen. So it seems like when we play like these Western Conference teams, I don't know what the mojo we have, bad mojo against the Western Conference, but it wasn't too dissimilar to the Seattle game earlier on in the season where like there was like a really bad just like middle of the game
Mm-hmm.
stretch where just everything was going against us and just like let it get too far away to really like have a chance to come back. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh wait a minute, there's 12 minutes of stoppage time. Things are getting weird here. Things got a little weird at the end, but it was a weird game. Like yeah, I think I even mentioned to you someone or like, kind of like a messaging about it. It's like it didn't feel like a 3-1 loss. Like it didn't feel like St. Louis like really stomped
Yeah.
us. It's just like they got some scoring chances that they finished and we kept most of the possession. We created a lot of dangerous moments, but they were all kind of like missing that last moment. Like we'd get into the
Yeah.
box, we'd have a spot where it looked like we were like one pass away from creating a shot, creating an opportunity, and couldn't quite get there. And then the handful of times we did create like shots, like their goalkeeper was like standing on his head, which he's proven European goalkeeper from years at Borussia Dortmund. He's one of their designated players, so they're paying him a ton of money to do that exact type of thing. So just one of those games where a lot of the breaks went against us, and we couldn't quite figure out how to put the uh, put the last pieces together to create our own chances back and forth. Like it could have easily, like a couple of breaks go our way. It could have been a 4-3 Nashville SC win, or
Mm-hmm.
even like that, which is what I thought a lot of this season would be based on kind of the preseason stuff. But just wonky, kind of weird game. When
Yeah.
you come out and you're missing Walker, you're missing Dan Lovitz, two of like the linchpins of our defense. It's always going to be a little off, and it really felt, particularly with Dan being off. I know we've had a lot of the season without Walker as it is, but something about Dan not being in there just seemed to throw the team off. Like that left side was just very very weak, seemed very exposed. St. Louis's like initial attacks were coming right down that line, and
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I know a lot of people were giving kind of Will Meyer, who ended up getting hurt, like a kind of a hard time on the left side. And I kind of think he kind of got done a little dirty because we played him and Jonathan Perez on the same side, which, Jonathan
Yeah.
Perez has been in good form. I can understand wanting to play him, but when you're kind of playing like a weaker defender back there, as much as I'm not the biggest Alex Muyl fan in the world, like I
Mm-hmm.
think he would have been a better fit in that matchup because he tracks back, he plays a little bit more defensively, so having like an
Mm-hmm.
extra kind of layer of cover in front of Will Meyer, I think would have helped him out a little. Is Will Meyer? I feel
Wyatt.
every time I'm saying that, I'm thinking of Wyatt Meyer. That's what I think. But me and my wife are rewatching Stranger Things, so I think I've got Will
Nice.
Byers in my head. So I'm saying Will Meyer instead. But yeah, I feel like he could have done better if he'd had like a player like Wheel who kind of does a little bit extra defensive work in front of him. But like Jonathan Perez, great attacking player, no doubt. Want to get him on there, try to get some attack going, but he's not a player that's really known for getting back and kind of pitching on the defensive side. So when you're kind of already weakened a little bit there with no Dan Lovitz, I don't know. I might have thought to play a little stronger defensive midfielder in front of the fullback, but I would certainly say that BJ Callahan has a much smarter soccer mind than me. So I'm not going to sit here and question him. But it's one of those things where maybe even hindsight's 2020. Maybe that's one where BJ looks back and goes, "Ha, we could have done things a little differently there." Because even by the end of the game, I think he had kind of switched things up and was
Mm-hmm.
playing Will and brought in Bauer once Meyer got hurt. So there were some changes made there that kind of made things look a little better the last like 10, 15 minutes. But yeah, just one of those weird games where it's like, I don't know if I'm just like trying to, like, I'm fully in optimistic mode now this season or what, but it just like didn't feel like a 3-1 loss. Like I felt like we played pretty decently, just had some bad breaks when made some sloppy mistakes on defense. And another thing we've talked about or on this podcast in the past is one of my concerns, in terms of us being a contender for trophies and stuff like that is, Joe Willis. He's still decent goalkeeper, still can do some things, but he's got a few more mistakes in him than he used to have the last couple seasons. And a lot of people were like freaking out on the first goal, being like, "Oh, what a golazo! What a golazo! How did the St. Louis players sneak that in?" I'm like, the first thing goalkeepers are taught is like you can never get beat at the near post, and Joe
Yeah.
Willis got beat near post twice in this game. So I mean,
Yeah.
like it was a crazy angle. It was a ripped shot on the first one, but second one
Yeah.
not so much. And both of them he got beat near post, and that's something like that's goalkeeper 101 is don't get beat near post, and he
Yeah.
got beat near post twice. So those things where like he's making tough saves here and there, doing some decent stuff, but he's still got some like concerning moments that could flare up, and in the tough games and the important games be a little bit of a problem spot that kind of still has me a little bit worried. But yeah, I think that flared up a little in this game. But it is what it is. You just chalk it up, move on, recover. Don't try to dwell on it too much. In terms of like the supporter shields race, which I think we're, probably it's going to be a long shot one way or the other for us. The other teams in it all kind of drop points too. So Cincinnati, Miami all had rough weekends too. So it was one of those where we lost the game, but didn't really lose ground because everybody that we're kind of in the mix with at the top of the table also kind of fumbled a little bit this past weekend, which is
Yeah.
it's almost like a catch-22. It's like, oh great, we lost, but so did everybody else. But then it's kind of like, well, man, but if we'd won, everybody else lost, that would have been even better. So
Yeah.
weird, just kind of a wash of a weekend, kind of a bummer of a game, but it is what it is.
And I actually watched the game with one of my friend who's been a lifetime like soccer fan, lifetime soccer player. He follows the Premier League, and he on both Joe Willis goals, he was like, you can't get beat by the near post, which I didn't even really think about that. So it's also another thing that he pointed out to me is I don't know if you noticed it, but our opening kickoff, uh, when we just I think it's a new trend that's starting to show up in the soccer world where you just launch it
Mm-hmm.
into like the other teams like goal corner kick area, have them throw it in, and then you just press like hell there, and that's a tactic now, and that's what we tried to do. It wasn't successful for us, so I don't know if we should keep doing that. But I was wondering if you noticed that and if you had any thoughts on it.
Yeah, I've noticed that we've been doing it for a few games now, and it's like you mentioned, it has become kind of a trend, and teams around the country are doing it. Like PSG, that was a big talking point throughout the Club World Cup, as they were doing that throughout the Club World Cup, where it's basically we're just gonna hoof it long out of bounds. It's almost like if you're it's almost like an American football tactic where like we're gonna coffin corner you deep into your own territory and just try to pin you deep and make you make the mistakes there. It makes sense as like a natural kind of transition of like where pressing has become such a huge part of soccer, like trying to force the team to make mistakes and then starting your attack further up the pitch. It makes a lot of sense in that regard. It looks really stupid, just like from a visual standpoint of like, oh, you have possession and you're just gonna intentionally give it away. But the mindset behind it I can kind of understand. But
Mm-hmm.
it is one of those things where I think like especially like non soccer fans, like I surprised actually, like my dad and my mom, they watch all the National SC games, but they're just like they're more diehard. Just they'll follow any sports team in Nashville. It's not like they follow soccer just because I grew up playing and liking it, but like they don't fully like understand it the way like people that really follow it do. So like I'm almost surprised I haven't got like a crazy text message from my dad being like, "Why the f are they kicking it out of bounds? Start the game. That's the dumbest thing they could possibly do," type thing. But like, it makes sense. But it's one of those things where it's like you might score one every like 10 games doing that,
Mm-hmm.
like trying to create like a press there. But at the same time, like, how often do teams score from any other thing they do off a
Mhm.
kickoff? It's almost like one of those kind of throwaway plays anyway, because you kick it back, you kind of knock it around the back, you just start with like slow possession. You're not really doing anything to really threaten the other team, keeping it there because they're probably dropping back anyway, just kind of waiting to see what you're going to do to begin with. So it's almost like giving yourself. It almost I'm sure that with how much data analytics are in sports now,
Mhm.
some nerd somewhere in a lab has been the one who said, "Hey, well, if we just kick it down in the corner, we have a 33.7% better chance of scoring than if we just play it back to our goalkeeper and start possession from the back and build it up that way." So I'm sure someone in a lab studying the data has said that it's a better percentage thing than just trying to possess off the kickoff. Back when I was coaching, we always tried to do like different things off the kickoff, like, overload one side and like put a fast player, like, especially because like sometimes like in high school when you played, like when I was coaching high school teams, like some of the teams knew each other pretty well. So like
Mhm.
if we had a new player, like a freshman or something like that, that the other team maybe didn't know about, we'd put like our senior on one side, and they'll be like, "Oh, they're gonna send it long to him on that side," and we put like this like new star freshman we had that nobody knew about on the other side, and like do like a reverse, and it rarely ever did anything, but it was the overthinking stuff we did
Yeah.
back then, being like, "Oh, let's make the kickoff like the key play in a soccer match," and it's kind of one of those like it's a throwaway most of the time, so that's almost
Yeah.
one of those things where it's maybe possibly you're giving yourself a better chance by creating a press situation earlier in the match than just trying to like wait for it to happen type thing, but I don't know. It definitely it's one of those funny quirks about soccer, like
Mhm.
where you're just like we'd rather give the ball away and see what happens than actually keep the ball ourselves in that situation. Just looks weird.
What was your Because I mean, I hate to bring this up, but it feels like it's a common theme occurring. But I feel like the score should have been different at the end of this match, and that comes into play with the officiating. So, what was kind of your thoughts on some of those tough calls where we scored but we didn't get the goal on the board?
Yeah, it was a that last little stretch of the game was a very weird one for the referee because I thought he was pretty much not that involved. Like it was that's ideally what you want out of a referee is basically you don't even think about them being out there. You don't have to think too much about them. I think he got the penalty decision for us pretty spot on, pretty correct. That was kind of the only like major incident that happened throughout like the most of the match for the most part. And then obviously like the review. I mean, the keeper was 100 miles off the line. I don't know if you were listening with the commentary, but like the commentators were kind of saying it is unfair to the goalkeeper to like let Hani basically come to a full
Mm-hmm.
stop and then shoot. Like that used to not be the rule. It used to be like players had to be continuously in motion
Mm-hmm.
in the shot process, but then there used to be so much like I think they did it to help the referees because there was so much like debate about, well, is that a stutter step? Is that a complete
Mm-hmm.
stop? They kind of just took that out of the game altogether and just like, just do whatever you want, then shoot the ball, kind of. But it is unfair to the goalkeepers who are already at a huge disadvantage in that situation. But end of the day, the way the laws of the game are currently written, he did come off his line early. It was grounds for a retake, although there was a lot of players that had already run into the box too before Hani struck the ball, and there's also like laws about if players encroach into the box. So it was a weird one. Whatever benefited us. We got the shot and goal. And then things got weird because bizarrely, like 12 minutes of added time. It was like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Where did this come from? Like, and I'm like, obviously as a Nashville SC fan, trailing 3-1 at that point in time, I'm like, okay, we'll take 12 minutes. Yeah, we definitely would like to have this time. But I'm also sitting there like referee brain going like, how did he come up with 12 minutes? I don't know what happened in the match that necessitated that much added time, but go into it. And then obviously we have the incident where we score the goal. It gets called back for like a foul on Teal Bunbury, but on the
Mm-hmm.
replay, it was like his jersey basically got ripped off.
Yep.
And I tweeted this out. This is kind of like a tongue in cheek, like conspiracy theory joke, I think. Or I might have put it in one of the discords. I don't remember where I put it, but it was like, I think the referee realized he screwed up really bad by adding 12 minutes. And then like they spent the next 12 minutes like trying to make sure nothing happened in those 12 minutes that would change the outcome of the game because he was like, oh shit, I should
Mm,
not have given 12 minutes here.
yeah.
I really don't want to cost St. Louis these points because I gave way too much overtime. But if I'm just kind of trying to, I think he messed up the call. I think the call got messed up on the Teal one.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm just kind of being devil's advocate and trying to speak through where that decision might have gone, it's kind of one of those mutual contact things initially. Like Teal's kind of engaging a little bit with the defender. Defender's kind of grabbing back. It's a little grabby, grabby, grabby. I actually watched the replay a couple times because there was a really good angle where you could like see where the ref was looking. Because I was like, what is he looking at? I want to see where he, and he was engaged with him. He was looking at them, and this is one of the ones where it's kind of does almost make it look a little bit more questionable the way he calls it because he's looking at the them the whole way.
Mm-hmm.
Never indicates he's going to call anything. We score the goal, and then shortly after that, he's like, "Tweet, I'm going to call that a foul."
Mm-hmm.
And so the timing of it, like, he's looking at it the whole way, but doesn't decide to call the foul until the goal goes in. That's a little whatever. But from like when they showed the replays of where the contact was and stuff like that, I can also see why VAR probably wouldn't have engaged because even though the end result was Teal got the worst of it, got his shirt kind of ripped up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of a little 6 one way, half a dozen the other. So once the referee has decided on the field, he's calling it against Teal. It was one of those where it's like if I'm the VAR and if the standard is a clear and obvious error, I don't know that's one I can say, hey, because it's kind of 50-50. Who do you, one of those, like, it's one of those that you rarely just don't call fouls on because it's so mutual. So that's kind of the
Yeah.
weird part of it. So I guess once he does call the foul, it becomes kind of a tough one for VAR to overturn. But it was a little wonky. It was a little weird. One of those where it's like, especially because, like, it wasn't like any more aggressive grabbing than you see, like, in almost any other instance in a soccer match. And
Yeah.
the contact did have no impact on the actual play itself because they were pretty far away from where everything else that was happening, which says that's where I like the conspiracy brain took over, and I was like, oh, maybe he was like, I really don't want anything to happen in these 12 minutes because I should not have given 12 minutes type thing. But I don't want to say that he was like intentionally trying to keep points off the board or something like that. But it was a definitely a little weird one because like on the replay, I watched it, like I said, and like when I saw that he was looking at them, I was like, okay, so he saw the foul, he's looking at it. It's not like something like that got buzzed into his ear from like an assistant referee or something like that. He's watching it, he's engaged with it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's very, and it's not even like the goal scored, and like I didn't like in live, I didn't think he was calling the foul because like the signal you make as a referee for a goal is you point to the center circle, like and he pointed that way, but he was pointing that way like, oh, it's a foul for a kick for St. Louis. So it was a very confusing signal too. And then I was like,
Mm-hmm.
this is weird.
Yeah.
It's a weird one. We didn't play good enough. It's one of those where like I hate to complain about the referee because like we were down 3-1, 3
Yeah.
nothing, whatever. You can't throw the referee under the bus for that. But it did put him in a weird spot where we maybe had a chance to kind of come back to life there, and he kind of squashed it out a little bit. But it
Yeah.
is what it is.
I hate to blame the team's faults on refing, just because I feel like it's a cheap out. But we were down 3-1, so we were playing bad, like you said. I think we could have maybe at least gotten a draw if things would have you know played out differently with the whistle. But who knows? Um, Switching to another form of football, the Titans played their first preseason match against the Bucks, and we got to see a little bit of our new guy Cam Ward. Um, I didn't get to watch the match; I was at work, unfortunately. But the people I've talked to, they said that Cam Ward was, fairly productive. We lost 29-7 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which doesn't look like a very productive quarterback. But what do you think? I know you watched it, and you have more in depth opinions on this. So
Yeah, we saw Cam Ward for the first two drives of the game. There was actually some speculation because apparently they had like massive like rainstorms down there for like the whole weekend leading up to the game, and also like apparently they had only just laid new turf down like a day or two before, so the field itself was looking in pretty rough shape. So there was actually like some speculation that the Titans might even like go back on their plan to play some starters just to protect them from like the field conditions or whatever. Ultimately, did not do that, but at the same time, you got to wonder how much that impacted what they were going to open up, what they were really going to do, what they were really going to try. First drive is kind of straightforward. Not didn't really do much. 3 and out. Didn't really open things up. Didn't really show much. Second drive, they gave him a little more chances. He looked pretty crisp, pretty effective. It looks like he's got a really good chemistry established already with Calvin Ridley, which Calvin Ridley, had 1,000 yards receiving last year with Will Levis as quarterback. So if you can do that with Will Levis as your quarterback, you probably can maybe think there's something even better coming with like maybe a more competent quarterback. But always hard to kind of judge like preseason. It's almost like going back to what we
Yeah.
were talking about with Aston Villa earlier. Like how much can you really judge in a game where you don't really know how much the team's putting out there, how much they're really trying, how much they're just trying to go through the motions and kind of get fitness and repetition in. But I mean, like, he didn't do anything that makes you like terrified or think he's going to be terrible. Like the big thing, everybody was, myself included, was like really somewhat. If I'm excited about anything I saw on that, was like when Cam Ward did drop back to pass, it kind of seemed like our offensive line actually gave him time to throw, which has not been the case for any Titans quarterback for like the last 3 or 4 years. So
Yeah.
if we've got a actual competent offensive line in front of him, uh, that's huge just in terms of giving him time to not freak out and make mistakes. For whatever Will Levis ends up being, if he ever turns into anything, I think he was had no chance behind the offensive line we've had the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
He already seemed like he was had a tough time making decisions. Period. But when you're not very good at making decisions at the quarterback position and you're also getting hit within like a second of snapping the ball, that's just a bad combination. So I think if that's continues, the offensive line looks like it looked in that game. I think Cam Ward's going to be set up pretty well to kind of have a chance to be successful. And the score line, I mean, I think the score line got taken out on like some of our backup quarterbacks because we had Tim Boyle, our third string quarterback, who was a disaster the last whatever. He came in like midway through the third quarter, like early in the fourth quarter, something like that, and just was a complete disaster. I actually bet the stupidest thing you can do is why bet preseason football games where it's like you don't know who's playing, you don't know what's going to happen. But I was like, oh, it's raining, it's a terrible player is going to be out there. I took under 33 and a half because I was like, oh, rain, storms,
Mm-hmm.
third and fourth string players. This is going to be a low scoring game. And it was sitting right there. It was perfect. It was right. It's like, this is the things that make you almost think like sports are rigged, where it was like perfectly set, and then like we had it. I was gonna cover. I was gonna win my bet, and like the very last play of the game, Tim Boyle throws a pick six. Bucks run it back, and it pushes it over the total. And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, "Is this real?" Like I'm like the last person watching this game because it's like fifth and sixth string players in. I'm like, "Come on, give me my $8 whatever I was going for," and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, pick six to like screw up my bet." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" And then he gets cut the next day, so it's like that. That's who took the blame for that loss was the third string quarterback. So that's my takeaways from the preseason game is don't bet on preseason football and don't throw interceptions if you're a third string quarterback because all you got to do is a third string quarterback is not look like an idiot or a third string quarterback look like an idiot and got himself cut.
There you guys go. That's the first preseason game. And like Matt said, I think it's really too early to make any have any opinions or do anything like that just because you don't know what. It's just a preseason is weird. Are they trying? Are they not trying? What's happening? Whatever. I'm excited to get into the season. We play another preseason game tomorrow against Atlanta, and so hopefully we'll see some more Cam Ward production there. Um, Matt, I want to kind of step away for a second from specific teams, I guess, and on field, and talk about what are you taking to your seats. What's you got to get stadium food when you go. I know it's expensive, but it's part of the experience for me. Um, what like you got your signature baseball like stadium food, hot dog, beer. Uh, Football, what would it be, like nachos maybe? So what is like a signature soccer stadium food for like an MLS game?
I mean, man, my go-to at Geo's Park, if I'm ever going to get like one specific item, is always going to be chivanadas, the empanadas. I think
Hmm.
any Nashville SC fan worth their salt, that seems to be like their first pick, and rightly so. I mean, like that's something like I don't even know if I ever even had an empanada before getting that at Geo's Park. So I was like, oh, this is unique, this is different. I want to try something different here, unique there. So specific to Geo's Park, it's got to be empanadas, it's got to be stuff like that. But I also think like stuff like that's a really good fit for soccer, a really good fit for any sport because like you don't want to have to like be fork and knife in
Hmm.
anything.
Yeah.
Nice, just handheld thing, a little dip, little eat it, kind of quick. Got it in your hands. You can throw it up in the air if we score a goal out of nowhere and stuff like that too. So it all works out pretty well there. Yeah, yeah. Just stadium across the board like football, soccer, baseball, anything I can eat handheld, anything that
Hmm.
like the thing that's nice about chivanadas is it's pretty filling. So it's like I'm not gonna have to get up multiple times. It's like, oh, I had a hot dog, but now I go want to go get a pretzel. It's like, nah, I had
Yeah.
two huge beef empanadas. I'm pretty sold for the. I'm pretty set for the game now, except for maybe like something, a beverage or some sort of that like nature. But yeah, that's my go-to anytime at Geo's Park is obviously the empanadas. But kind of more generic, just like my go-to. And I probably seen me talk about this if you're watching the videos where I sit club section at Geo's Park is like
Hmm.
my like probably favorite like kind of standard generic stadium food is popcorn. I love
Hmm.
popcorn. Like movies anywhere in the world, popcorn's one of my just in general favorite foods, and it's like a great stadium snack because you like depending on you get a big bag of popcorn, you can stretch that out pretty much the whole game. Eat on it a little bit, get a little full, put it down, watch a little bit of the game. Oh, I'm getting hungry again. Pick back up the popcorn, start going on to that again. So, I mean, like specific to Geo's Park, it's got to be chivanadas, but my kind
Hmm.
of outside of that, just kind of across the board, stadium food is always popcorn.
Yeah, popcorn's so weird to me because I either like love it or it's the worst thing in the world to me. And it just depends on the mood. You can't beat the movie theater popcorn, but that's really the only time I ever find myself eating popcorn. To be honest, I would say if we're
I think I
talking.
have like a weird I think I have like a weird affection for like bad stadium popcorn
Hmm.
because like I growing up when I was a kid, like this will date me a little bit. Like when I was a kid, we didn't have the Titans, Predators, or anything like that yet. So like my family had season tickets to like Vandy football and basketball,
Yeah.
and go there, we'd get popcorn and everything like that, and eat it and be like, oh, this is the greatest popcorn in the world. And then like I actually like my church youth group sometimes we'd go volunteer and like work the concession stands for like women's basketball games at Vandy.
Hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, where's the popcorn machine? Where's the popcorn machine?" And guys like, "We just have like 50 bags of pre-made popcorn that are back in the corner back there that we just fill up the bags with when it's time." I was like, "Oh, it's kind of a disappointment. I always thought it was like fresh baked popcorn, but oh well, I still like it anyway." So I think I just like developed a even bad stadium popcorn. I developed like an affection for it just from eating it growing up at Vanderbilt games back in the day when like popcorn probably was the best thing about going to those games because Vandy's so crappy in most sports. It was like, oh well, at least I get popcorn. But
Yeah. At least you get crappy popcorn to go with the crappy team. Um, but
mhm.
I would say at G Otis, I like the it's a little bit on the messier end, so you got to be careful if you're wearing a jersey. But the burrito tacos from I believe it is Chivanadas,
Mhm.
those are you can't go wrong with those. I really enjoy the Daddy's dogs. I mean, it's just so unique, and I'm a glizzy gladiator, unfortunately. Where if I see a hot dog, I eat it. It's simple as that. And daddy dogs is you can't beat stuff like that. But I do think that depending on the culture of the game of the sport, I guess kind of depends on what I'm going to eat. Um, so if I go to a baseball game, I'm eating hot dogs and drinking the cheapest beer I can find,
Mhm.
and maybe at soccer, this white boy might speak a little Espanol, and I might get some burrito tacos or something, um,
Yeah.
and a Modelo. Who knows? And maybe maybe that's I don't know what outsiders might think about that. But I like to enrich myself in the culture as much as I can, even if it is if it is kind of like I'm drinking a Modelo, so I'm enriched in this, which it's a little deeper than that. But so yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it, and that's I also just always strayed away from like American food if I'm paying for food, because I can cook a cheeseburger in my house. I can't make some of this other stuff. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because like a lot of times with like Titans games, like I don't often eat that much at Titans games because like I think maybe to your point, I associate like American football with like wings or burgers or stuff like that, and that's not stuff I would like really want to like you to your point like I don't want to pay like $18 for like a cheeseburger at a Titans game. Like, it's like I'll just have a cheeseburger tonight or something like when I'm watching like the Sunday night game or something like that. And like wings are not a very good like stadium conducive food. Like to sit there and like be dipping your wings in blue cheese and have to do something with the bones while you're sitting there. So like
yeah,
yeah, Titans games more often than not I don't really eat anything, and that's probably there's probably some kind of weird mental thing there where I'm like, I want a burger, but do I want to pay like a burger right now? That's what I'm in the mood for, but I want to buy a burger because why would I buy an $18 cheeseburger? But yeah, that's an interesting point.
um, but definitely check out Cheap Nautis if you haven't. I mean, I feel like everyone I talk to that's ever been to Geodis Park, I'm not. Do they have it at Nissan?
No, they've actually kind of gotten a little bit better over like the last like 4 or 5 years about adding some kind of like those local style places to Nissan. Because forever it was just like the most like generic cheeseburger stand. Like they had like Logan's, but it was like not even like really like Logan's food for a long time. But now they got like a Hattie B stand. They've got a Martin's barbecue stand. I think Daddy's Dogs is at
Yeah.
Nissan Stadium too, but they don't have. I don't think they have Chivanadas at the stadium. At least they haven't passed. They might have some
Mm-hmm.
new additions this season. They try to like change some stuff every few seasons, and who knows what'll happen come 2027 when they move into the new stadium. But
Mm-hmm.
for the time being, that is one thing where Geodis Park kind of like two things. Geodis Park immediately blew past Nissan Stadium was food, bathrooms. That's the twoest
Mm-hmm.
things. Like when me and my dad went to like meet with like the sales executives about like potentially buying tickets at the new Titan Stadium, like that was the first thing I said was like, dude, soccer stadium, way more bathrooms, way better food. Can you guys do that, please? That's my dude. That was the biggest blowaway I had at Geo's Park. Was like I have not waited for the bathroom once at Geo's Park, and the food is awesome. Like that's all I need.
Yeah. The Geodis Park is just so beautiful. If you're a listener and you're a Nashville fan from across, if you aren't based in Nashville, make the trip. It's worth it. And get Chivanadas. Have never heard a negative review of them from every Nashville fan I've talked to, so it's worth it. Um, so with the mindset that we are going to Geodis, I don't know if we're playing home this weekend or not, but Nashville SC versus New York City this Sunday at 5 p.m. Um, Mark your calendars because it's another weird one where it's on Sunday at 5 p.m. So, and that's 5 p.m. Eastern, so 4 p.m. Nashville time. We're going against New York City, eighth in the Eastern Conference. They just got knocked out of the League's Cup recently by Toluca. Um, it's one that we struggled with at the beginning. I believe is we lost to them or it was New York Red Bulls. I get it mixed up. Do you know off the top of your head, Matt? Or
I can't remember exactly this season, but I know both New York teams have kind of over time been a bugaboo for us. Just up down, they seem to be teams that always like give us little struggles. But it probably would be a good idea. Let me look and see what happened the first time we played them because we do have that little weird
May thirty
running
first we
stat where this.
May 31st we drew against them.
All right, we do have that little fun little stat going where every time we've played a team a second time, we've beat them the second time. So
Mm-hmm.
and we can hope that hopefully that's a trend that keeps going this one because I don't think they're what they have been in the past. I mean, like you mentioned, eighth in the table. We're what second, third, depending on when you're looking at the table. So I mean,
As of right now, we're third.
you think we could? Yeah, it is at New York though because we are in like this weird stretch where we don't have home. I think we've only got like maybe like 3 or 4 home games left the entire season. I know we just basically picked up one because we were playing Philadelphia in the U.S. Open Cup semifinals next month.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we've only got handful. I think the 23rd is our next home game, which because there was like this funny little scheduling quirk where like I think our last home game was July 19th, and that was like back to school night. And my mom was asking me, she's like, "Why is it back to school night in July?" Which there are some counties in Tennessee that go back like absurdly earlier. We had August 1st, like some counties were back in school already, which is absurd. But that was our last home game before schools all went back. So I think that had
Yeah.
to be back to school night because we haven't had home games since then. So it was like that had to be back to school night, weirdly enough. But yeah, I think we got 90s night, the 23rd coming up. I think is the next home game. We do have an event at Geodis Park that I will be at Saturday, 7 a.m. bright and early. The Dash at the Castle, third annual, I believe, Nashville SC 5K. So I'll be running that again Saturday morning. So
Can we
that'll be a
expect a
fun little
vlog
thing
for
for the
that?
first time ever. This Oh yeah, I'll be. I don't know if I'll do just for that or if I'll like do kind of like a weekend compilation vlog. Cause I got a couple other things going on this weekend too. But ooh, excuse me, there will definitely be some coverage of that because it's kind of cool this year. They've done it as a night race, like the first handful of years they did it, but this time is the first time they're doing it like in the morning. But also they've added instead of just being like a little loop around the stadium itself,
Hmm.
the last little stretch of it, you kind of run out on the actual field at Geodis Park and kind of do a
Yeah.
little lap around the pitch. So that'll be cool. It'll be kind of a little bit of a different wrinkle to it from the past few years. So looking forward to that. Like, be an interesting wrinkle to it there. So yeah, I'll
Hmm.
definitely have some kind of vlog coverage of that and whatever else I get into over the course of this weekend coming up on the channel over on the Uncle Matt homepage.
Yeah, I've been getting so many ads for the dash at the castle or whatever that they're calling it. And it looks super cool to get to run on the pitch. That'd be a cool opportunity for anyone who does 5Ks. Um, Nashville versus New York City. I think that I think this is an easy game to predict that we will come on top of. I think we're the better team. We've played them already, so we have some information. The stat that you said kind of points in our favor of, we'll probably win this one. And it being Sunday at 5 p.m. I don't know if you noticed this trend, and I don't have any stats to back it up, but it seems like Surridge performs very well in those day games, um, which is
Maybe
some,
he's still on English time or something like that.
I don't know what it is, but I just maybe he sees better.
Like the later Saturday, he's like, I should be in bed by now or something like that. So it's like he's on English time where he's like, oh, Saturday tea time is perfect kickoffs for me. I can do everything in these games.
He's permanently
It's
jet
funny.
lagged.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah,
was.
yeah, he's been here for 3 or 4 years and hasn't yet to adjust to the time change.
I think it was a Charlotte and maybe like um, Atlanta or something weird. Some two games that he had hat tricks in both of them, and it was during the day because I remember not being able to watch it. Um, so if you followed my betting journey of the season of Sam Surge hat trick 3-0 result, I think this might be a good game to tag along to
There you go.
listeners. We haven't hit yet. We're down whatever the amount of games times 10. But once it hits, it'll be nice.
Yeah, that's one of those type of bets. You just got to hit it once, and it all evens out or comes out on the end. So
I've also
yeah,
like
that'll be interesting. I will be, the one kind of who comes back from injury. Do we get Walker back? Do we get Dan Lovitz
mm,
back? Certainly
true.
feel a lot better if we had those two guys in the lineup. But I think we've shown we've got decent depth this season. I think
Yeah.
we've you know learned what we can and can't do. So we'll see what happens.
And even if Walker's not back, I don't think that's the end of the world. We've seen that for most of the season. But we do need to be smart about who we're playing in left back. Uh, just because it didn't work out last game, but it's such a young dude, such a young player. I didn't fault that really on the player. I think he's kind of thrown into that maybe too prematurely, even though he's had I think he had like 2 or 3 starts. Um,
Mm.
but still, I expect even with some B team guys, I think we should we should be able to pull out the win. Um, I, if I'm going against what my FanDuel will say, I'll go 3-0 Nashville. Realistically, 2-0, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'd say like 2-0, 2-1, some in that range feels about right. But yeah, I'd probably go somewhere in that range.
um, but yeah, so uh, make sure to set your alarm in your calendar for Sunday's game so you don't forget. Catch the preseason game tomorrow, even though it's not the end of the world if you don't. Make sure to check out Uncle Matt on all platforms. Go over to Wormy on YouTube and hit the subscribe. And we will catch you in the next episode.